episode of the Rebel Radio podcast, and we are officially full speed ahead in our 11th year now. Since the 10th anniversary special is now playing. It's official.
That's right.
It's on the rebelradiopodcast.com and whatever app you're choosing to listen to the show on. It is out. The 10th anniversary special, about 95 minutes of us goofballs talking movies and playing some games and reminiscing about the cool things to us, at least, that we did over the last 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a lot of fun to record it and bring it to y'all. And we hope you enjoy listening to it. And we hope that you go to the rebelradiopodcast.com and check that out and help us celebrate 10 years. And then while you're doing that, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or most podcast apps, we appreciate if you leave us a quick little 5-star drop or a review and just let us know how much you enjoy the show that is the Rebel Radio podcast. As Matt and I continue to bring it to us, and sometimes Long, who joined us for the 10th anniversary show, he was there, and he's always there in spirit with us, though.
Absolutely.
That sounds wrong. It sounds like he's fucking dead or something. Just the spirit of Long looms large over the show. We'll just put it that way. But man, it's Saturday, and this is kind of a big deal. I think that I've talked some WWE on the show lately, and wrestling's really popular again right now. And tonight was their Money in the Bank event, and a big surprise came tonight. John Cena shows up, and he's important to talk about because he is in film and television and things like that, and he's very popular across the world past wrestling. And he had made it official. We all kind of knew this was coming, but he is going to go on a farewell tour in 2025. Starting in Royal Rumble, he's going to do one last year in the WWE and call it quits. And so next year, when you see him at Royal Rumble and WrestleMania and other big events, they will be his last. And he's talking right now. He's going to appear in about 30 cities next year and do a farewell tour for his retirement. He has no idea where it's going to go, who his final match is going to be, or anything like that. He's going to trust the story writers to give him a good farewell tour in his last year, but kind of some big Hollywood news there. Cena's going to give it, and he teased that. He teased on social media earlier this year. He teased it even at when we saw him at Comic Palooza that he was considering, one final run through the WWE before he moves on to doing just film and stuff. And so he made it official tonight, Money in the Bank, that John Cena is going to give it one last run to the WWE, and he is one of the absolute best to ever be in the ring, one of the absolute best to ever do it. And I am sure that Paul Levesque, Triple H, and the writers at WWE are going to give him a fantastic send-off next year as he does a final tour through the WWE, and that's very big news on the entertainment business because he's a guy that, coming out of the Attitude Era from Stone Cold and The Rock and all those guys that helped carry the company for a good 15 years before passing on the reins. Passing on the reins, no pun intended, to Roman Reigns, then carried the company for a while. And now Roman's still there with the new blood like Cody Rhodes and these guys that are carrying the company now. But it was definitely Cena's company for many years. And he helped build the WWE's brand even bigger than it already was. And now he's going to come back for one final run. And the only thing I think that John should do is shave your head before you come back, because the bald spot in the back, it's not always the best idea. Look like an aging wrestler, John.
Yeah.
So maybe
just take it off
before you come back. And it was emotional, man, watching tonight when he announced it. His towel that he always has says "Never give up." It says he said for the last time. I was like, whoa, what's he doing? Everyone's like, what's, and he comes out and he announces it. And so, it was emotional, man, to watch. Definitely one of those guys that, people can look up to, and he does so much for children and charities and kids. And it's still every year the more Make-A-Wishes than any other celebrity in the world, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Just a relentless, good person who just does it all for the love of it and for the kids and people that are his fans. So.
No, it's like you see him in some movies and some roles, and you're like, man, I wonder if this guy is a bit of a dick, But then you see him like as he is, and through his comedy, especially that he's done of late, his comedy is I feel like is kind of like along the lines of Arnold. It's cheesy, but it works for him. and it worked for Arnold too. And his interviews that he does in public and what he does out in the public eye as a with all the candid opportunities we have of seeing him. You can tell he's he's just a great person, and tries to make an impact in people's lives that he has that are strangers to him. And he's he just does a lot, and he's a great speaker. I think whenever we saw him at Comic Palooza, he was very delicate with his words, and definitely had a unique perspective on things, the way he talked to that interviewer. So it's cool seeing him kind of like that, especially the last decade, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, on to bigger things. Well, I don't know how much
Definitely,
much bigger. WWE is pretty big, but
yeah,
I know
he's never had the box. He's never had the box office success of like his peers, like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He hasn't quite had that, but he's had his own success. He's been successful enough in film and television, and what he's done in the ring has been highly successful. I mean, if there's a Mount Rushmore of wrestling, you could argue that it's Hulk Hogan, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and John Cena. Those four guys are probably on it, and then you could maybe, if I had to add a fifth, Triple H. Those five guys, are probably the mecca of wrestlers, that have put into the, and it's hard to do just five, because you could also say Roman Reigns, you could add Andre the Giant, the
Big Show, maybe
Ric Flair. Yeah, I don't think
Flair.
Big Show would be in the second echelon, but Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream. Those about you couldn't do a Mount Rushmore just 4 or 5. You probably have to go about 10 wrestlers, and that are on that. And John Cena is definitely on that Mount echelon of what's made the WWE as popular as it is. I mean, you ask most school-age children who John Cena is, and they know who he is, and even our parents and our grandparents probably know who he is. And he's one of those larger-than-life guys who plays a character on television, but also is cross pop culture boundaries to where people are aware of who he is, and that says something about his power of how he has been a celebrity. So he announced his retirement from the WWE this year. He says he's going to keep on acting and doing that, and but he says like I think his oldest child just turned 20, and he's talked about that, being home and helping them as they become young adults and things like that, being home for them. Which is really cool, and mad respect to John Cena, one of the greatest, man. And so I hope I'm looking forward to next year to see what he does in the ring. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. Matt, it's not too late. Get on that WWE bandwagon, man.
I know, man. I really wanted to watch tonight. That way I could kind of at least, even though I haven't been caught up into this point, maybe just experience the event and, be able to.
We can always watch the replays, Yeah, you can always watch the replays. Yeah, and that's a great thing. But yeah, it's not too late to get on that bandwagon, man. So come on over. There's plenty of room. That's the cool thing about WWE is it's absolutely generational. Whether you started watching it when you were in 1986 or 87, like I did, to watching it now in 2024, because it's great soporific storytelling. You can kind of jump in any time. And then now with Peacock makes it so accessible that they have so many great things on Peacock where you can catch up on storylines. They have little clips and 15-minute things where they catch you up on stuff on Peacock, and that's really cool. So if you want to get into it right now, you can go back and watch. They have things that are called the Road to Money in the Bank, so you can get caught up in what happened last month. So you're caught up on the current PLE, and things like that. So that's the cool thing about accessing now streaming and what they're doing. And then in January 1st, Raw, which is on USA Network, goes to Netflix, and that's going to be huge. And SmackDown is moving over to USA Network in September, and along with Raw, which is already on USA. Then in November or January 1st, Raw will be on Netflix. But right now, they're still under contract with Peacock, so the PLEs, that's for their premium events and all that, still going to be on Peacock for the next couple of years until new contracts come up. But so good time to be a WWE fan. It's it's a weird time to be a DC fan right now. We know James Gunn is filming his Superman film, and which is I'm still optimistic about. I thought it was cool. They announced that Christopher Reeve's son is going to have a role in the film as a reporter. I thought that was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
But now all of a sudden, the Arkham Asylum series that was supposed to tie in with Matt Reeves' Batman and the Penguin show has been canceled at HBO Max. And I was reading, I didn't really find any real reasoning as to why, but I'm starting to think that James Gunn has a lot to do with some of these cancellation things. I think they're stretching DC too thin. And I think let's be honest, I think the reason the Batman is getting its sequel made is because it was so successful and it was already in full pre-production when Gunn took over.
Yeah.
But I also wouldn't be surprised one bit if we only get the Batman Part 2 in the Penguin series and that's it, that we don't get a trilogy from Reeves. Because I just can't help but think the more and more I read things, how controlling Gunn is over this whole situation of how he's taken over. I mean, you go back to him scrapping the cameos towards the end of the DCU, having the cameos cut from the Flash, having the cameos cut from the Aquaman film. The Batgirl movie being scrapped. I just can't help that Gunn has a lot to do with this. Like this is my yard now. You're going to do what I say. And, we don't need an Arkham Asylum TV series, and he's doing this because I don't know why I think that. I guess I'm looking from the outside reading into this stuff and just thinking, man, Gunn is like, no, it's my yard now. You can go finish a little Batman 2 movie, Matt Reeves, and then we're moving on,
Yeah, I don't like that. It's even Marvel, like there were projects that Fox had already started, in motion, and like New Mutants wasn't that great. It was pretty bad. But they still put it out, but it's like Batgirl. It's like, we're canceling we're not putting Batgirl out. And apparently,
it bugs me to know there's a film out there with Michael Keaton as Batman and we'll never see it. Yeah.
And apparently Brandon Fraser was in the film and he was pretty good.
Yeah.
It's like, that would have been interesting.
It's weird. It's weird to see how the DCEU fell apart, and now we're getting this new DCEU, and it's just and maybe in a couple of years from now, when Superman comes out next year, and then the Supergirl film, and we move on, we'll forget all about it. But right now, it just feels like such an influx of territory that we're hitting with this stuff, and we'll see how it all comes together in the end, and I hope it all comes together for the better, because we would. It's going to be great to have a really good DC universe set up. And we'll see. There's some interesting pictures from behind the scenes of Superman where you can see what appears to be Guy Gardner and Hawkgirl and some cool stuff like that. So I also hope there's not too many characters in the Superman movie. That'll be, that can be a problem. But James Gunn, doing Guardians of the Galaxy and Suicide Squad, he has showed that he can juggle multiple characters pretty well. I'll give him that. So hopefully it comes together into a nice package. But there's other exciting things to look forward to, like Batman: The Cape Crusader, the new animated series hitting Amazon Prime in just a few weeks. That looks awesome. So there's some cool stuff. I didn't even know there's a new Suicide Squad animated series on Max. Apparently, haven't watched it yet, but I heard it's kind of cool. It's like an anime series. There's also a sequel to Batman Ninja coming out, which I thought was interesting. Batman Ninja was okay. It wasn't like one of my more favorite DC animated films, but it's getting a sequel, and I guess the trailer for that hit. So there's a lot going on in the DCU right now with different films and things like that. So we'll see how it all comes together as we move forward. But another reason I want to back up a little bit to the Batman Part 2 is the reason I also think that we'll only get 2 Batman films is because you're taking almost when did 2022? So you're taking almost 5 years in between. I mean, Pattinson's going to be 36, 37. He's going to age out of playing Batman at some point. It was a little bit different with the Christian Bale films. Bale started, he was only about 31, 32 when he filmed Batman Begins, and he did all the films over 10 years. So he was about 38. I think he was like 29 when he did Batman Begins, and he was 39 by the time they were all done. So, he got 3 films in 10 years, but with Pattinson, you're taking 7 years just to do 2 movies. It's like, he might be too old by the time you get to that point. And that's just the way it might work out on that. But that was a little bit of some news that came out this week with that cancellation of the Batman show. So other than that, it's been kind of a slow news week. It's a holiday week, not a whole lot going on right now. So just the way it kind of works.
Yeah. Yeah. Not much going on other than, our weekly shows that come out and weekly episodes. Whether you watch Star Wars, The Boys, or Frank watching Bridgerton.
He would watch that shit. Speaking of watching stuff, I kind of had a slacking off week. I did watch the new Acolyte this morning, actually, and man, it's that show is, I don't know, it was okay. It's funny, it wasn't like the worst episode or anything, but it just didn't do anything. It's just like, okay, we just spent 38 minutes moving the story nowhere. It's kind of how I felt.
Zero.
With the new episode. It's like,
and
okay,
then why do we have to have a nude
we took
Sith
30
Lord
minutes to find out the soul figured out who May was. That was the twin the whole time.
Yeah.
And then the Jedi go to the planet to investigate the deaths and basically discover nothing. Like nothing happened in the episode.
They're just like, oh, they're dead.
A lightsaber did this.
Yeah.
I was just like,
crazy.
Wow, this is the best you could come up with. It's a shame that this show's not written better.
And it's like, really, they couldn't tell they swapped the whole time.
I know.
I don't know. And then maybe I'm splitting hairs, but whenever May cuts her hair off with the lightsaber, how did she not melt her damn face? It's like, why would you do that with the, I don't know.
Yeah. And then what's up with the Jedi Council member with the purple lightsaber that twirls through the air? Like, what was that?
Yeah.
Who's making up new lightsabers all of a sudden that can do this zigzaggy thing in the air?
That was weird.
That like the reading the mind thing didn't really bother me. I'm like, okay, whatever. I could see how maybe Jedi could have done that at one time.
Yeah, because
they were told over the years not
to.
Yeah. They were told over the years not to do it. You shouldn't abuse your power or whatever. But just all of a sudden, a lightsaber that can do whatever it did and look like a dildo on a stick, wiggle wagon. It's like, wait, what?
Basically.
Yeah, man. There's 2 episodes left. I feel like that it's not going to really end that strongly at this point. I'll give it a little appreciation for the drug dealer and why he chose the path. Because remember last week we were talking about like, well, why him? Why was he the bad guy?
Yeah.
So he explained that he wasn't so sure as he moved on that the Jedi way was the best way. So he's looking for a new way and the power of 2. He never really clarifies that he's Sith, but he obviously sees things a little bit differently. I thought some of that was okay. I was like, okay, you're giving some justification of why he's doing what he's doing. That wasn't too bad. Some of that was, it's still not great, but it's like, okay, because we were looking for some explanations why he was doing what he was doing.
Yeah.
But I still feel like there's a bigger reason. Maybe there's someone else behind this,
I think it's setting up for something, some kind of reveal. Especially since this episode kind of, like you put it best, it just didn't move the story forward. We kind of shuffled in place a little bit. You got some information out of there. But Leslie Heelan, she did confirm that he is Sith. So maybe he is, he is part of the rule of 2 with another, and maybe he's trying to take on an apprentice of his own. You never know. So it'll be interesting to see if there's someone else in the mix as far as the Sith dark side of the Acolyte show goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. And there were certain reports that it had already been canceled for season 2, but I haven't seen anything that said that at all. And because generally Disney, especially with Star Wars, they never have done that. And so far they haven't canceled anything. They simply announced it was only going to be 1 season. They've never officially said there would never be an Obi-Wan season 2. They just said right now we do 1 season. So I don't see why they would suddenly change the way they do press and announce that there's no season 2. I think they're going to let it finish, because sometimes streaming numbers too, people forget that streaming is a little different. Just because it doesn't get the initial huge ratings that week, sometimes people watch them a week later. So sometimes you have to let a whole show. Some people wait till all 8 episodes are out and then they binge it. And like we said last week, the show, as far as streaming numbers, has been successful. I mean, it's people are watching it, whether it's good or not. Because it's Star Wars. Yeah. So so I think we'll see how that goes, and we'll see how it ends. It's 2 more episodes and see if it sets up a second season or not. But that's really I'm trying to think if I watched anything else this week. I don't feel like I did, man. I kind of slack off week as far as watching stuff. I mean, I got to get to The Boys, man. I don't know why I need to. It's almost over, and I'm not even started it yet.
Yeah, dude. So I was actually watching it before we started recording. I've only seen half of the newest episode, but it's gotten so fucked up. And it's just, this part made me laugh. If you haven't seen the new episode, there is a scene between 2 people, and one person asks the other person to sit bare ass on a German chocolate cake and fart on it to turn them on. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Whenever you think there's nothing else, when you think there's nothing else that can surprise me from the show, they find a way to make you say, what the fuck? And just laugh, at, the shit that they come up with. But man, it's the season started off slow for me, but I feel like episode 4 and 5 and 6 have turned up, and it's definitely going in a stronger direction. It's one of the weaker seasons overall. It's not 3. It's definitely not 2. 1 was pretty cool because you're still learning everything. So we'll see how it ends. We'll see how it ends and how it ranks.
So let's clarify that for those listening on their car right now. Somebody sits on a cake bare ass and farts to turn someone on.
Yep.
So remember, don't ever be embarrassed by your kinks. Okay. If you like
there you go.
feet, if you like to wear, if you're a dude, you like to wear panties or whatever,
Yeah.
You
Squirrel
can
tail.
You can like someone. Yeah, man, you want to gerbil up your ass. I mean, you want someone
Richard
to sit
Gere
on a cake and fart bare ass.
Yeah.
So
you're like Richard Gere.
Oh my god, man! it could have gotten worse than the Hero-gasm episode when what's his name gets fucking cum all over him.
Dude, that was
That was fucked up. I mean, that's it's just
there is some
say what it is.
Yeah, there is some fucked up shit, and it involves a Spider-Man variant called Web Weaver. So we get a Spider-Man type person, and Tech Knight finally shows up, which is basically their Batman.
Man, I got to get on that season. I've just been I don't know. I've been slacking watching TV lately. I don't know.
Slacker.
And then now I'm really afraid to see bare ass fart cakes. Oh my god. Wow. Yeah.
They fart.
Well, I don't know. Then again, you know what? When I say I don't watch anything,
yeah,
I do watch, like, I find like these random weird episodes of anime on Crunchyroll, and sometimes I'll watch an episode if it catches my my thing. I'll watch a little bit more, but sometimes I'll just watch one episode. I'm done. So there is this anime called Keijo. Hip Whip Girls, it's subtitle, and this is basically a water sport where girls are in bikinis or swimsuits, and they have to hit this ball and knock each other off of the podiums, and they can't use their hands or their feet. So imagine what they're using.
Wow.
Talk about pure fan service, and it's fucking glorious. I mean, I'm not ashamed to admit I'm almost 48 years old. If I want to watch some perverted fucked up shit, I'm going to watch some perverted fucked up shit. They hit these balls with their boobs and their butts, and it's amazing. This is something they came up with in Japan as anime. It's on Crunchyroll. You can watch it, and it's played for comedy. There's no nudity in or anything like that. Just pure fan service. So you're supposed to laugh at it, but also as a guy, you're like, wow, this is genius. This is absolutely fucking genius.
Who thought about this?
Because what straight male wouldn't watch this and go, wow, this is fucking awesome, right? I mean, unless you're just a prude, I mean, come on, Matt, give me some support here. I'm not feeling support. Like it's okay to watch.
No. And you know what? I want
you to watch it. I want Jackie to watch it. I want you to watch it. And I want Jackie to walk in the room, and I want her to go, "What the fuck you're watching?" And I want you to say, "I'm exerting my manhood. I can watch this shit." Okay?
It's a cartoon, babe. It's a cartoon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I know the kind of look. I could see it without seeing her face. The kind of look she would give you, and it would be amazing.
What's this thing called again?
Keijo, Keijo, and it's on Crunchyroll, and it's brilliant. That's the kind of shit I watch when I'm really bored.
I think I've seen clips of this before. Don't they try and hit each other in the water and stuff?
Yeah, they try and knock each other into the water.
Yeah. I've seen clips come up on my feed of this.
Yeah, it's considered one of the top fan service animes. And, so I was watching some of that. And I've been watching some more episodes of Fairy Tail, about 15, 16 episodes in that, which is a pretty enjoyable show. And, we even talk about this. I meant to do in the news, the Hellboy Crooked Man trailer. I'm sorry, but it gave me real fan film vibes. It just looked like a fan film. I know it's written by Matt Mignola, the guy who created Hellboy, but I just, I don't know, man. Just wasn't feeling it. That's just my quick review of that trailer. I was like, it's all right. We'll see.
Yeah. Cautiously excited. Cautiously.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to put it. So did you watch anything else? Oh, I did take the kids to see Despicable Me 4, which is as entertaining as, all the it's as entertaining as all the other ones have been. It's 3 was kind of weak, and so was Rise of Gru. But this is a back to form with Despicable Me 4. I'll give it credit. Back to form. It was funny and some legit funny jokes. As an adult, I found myself laughing. So Illumination struck gold again with this one. It's good. It was fun. Kids enjoyed it. I can see why my 9-year-old Wyatt, who's my rascal, likes those movies because they're full of shenanigans, and he likes shenanigans. But definitely enjoyable film. Did you check anything else out besides The Boys?
Yeah, it was so they have an anime sale on Vudu. Well, Fandango.
Oh, yeah, I saw your account there. You bought a bunch of stuff that you can watch on Netflix for free, but that's cool.
Yes, I did. But Ninja Clash in the Land of Snow. I remember I was trying to get Joe and Luke into another anime, and I thought Naruto would be a good one for them to watch. And they liked it. But yeah.
Well, that's the problem when Vudu or Fandango Home runs those anime sales. They're always stuff that you can already watch on Netflix or Crunchyroll. They never run the rare stuff on sale. Hardly ever.
The only thing about
they
Crunchyroll,
do run like the Ghost in the Shell movies and some of those on sale that aren't available other places. But most of the stuff's like, I can watch this other places.
Yeah, Crunchyroll. I couldn't find the dub. You can only find the subbed Naruto on Crunchyroll.
Well, I know. But Netflix has all it dubbed.
Yeah. Oh,
but it's
on Netflix dubbed?
Yeah, Naruto.
Oh, okay.
Should have all the dubbed on it. And then because my boys have watched it. And then there's one Naruto movie called The Last, which is one of the. It's not hard to find as far as DVD or Blu-ray, but it hasn't been streaming a whole lot, and it's fixing to come to Netflix.
The Last
Naruto movies called The Last, I think it is, and it's fixing to hit Netflix streaming. Yeah, and it's a Naruto film. Anime people, if you don't know, it's hard to like. A lot of the animes have they're series, right, where they'll run 150 episodes. In the case of One Piece, 1,000 episodes, and then they'll have these movies that they'll do. And some of the movies are in continuity, like for instance, Dragon Ball Super Broly, Dragon Ball Superhero. But then they'll have these movies that aren't in continuity, like Dragon Ball Cooler's Revenge. I don't know why I said Superman. Naruto
Yeah.
has Naruto has tons of movies that aren't in its continuity. So does One Piece. Like the One Piece Stampede movie that came out a couple years ago, which was hit theaters. It's not even in the continuity of the film. They're just like these one-off stories. But the cool thing about him is most of the time you can watch those one-off movies without having to watch the anime. They're usually pretty accessible to non-fans, which is cool. The anime companies do a good job of doing that. But so that's why it's hard when people ask where I get started in anime, and you ask them like, "Oh, should I watch Dragon Ball or One Piece?" It's like, yeah, maybe start something smaller first. You know, like a show like Neon Genesis Evangelion. It's only 24 episodes, a few movies. You know, and that's why
3 episodes.
Yeah, before you take on something that's 900 episodes and a bunch of movies, because it can get a little confusing. And that's your anime lesson for the day as far as how to get into anime. Start small before you go big.
Definitely.
Fair to say. But all right, well let's get into today's featured film, which is based on a manga, which I don't believe ever got turned into anime. There was talks about it getting turned into anime at one point. The name of the manga was All You Need Is Kill, which I think is a fucking cool ass name. All You Need Is Kill. And the movie was almost titled that until they decided that I guess political climates with gun violence and things like that. To be fair, maybe we shouldn't call the movie All You Need Is Kill. Okay, that's fair. You know, I mean, do I think it's pussification of America? Absolutely. But I get it. You know, you're trying to sell a film, and gun violence being a big problem in the world, you know, you couldn't call a movie All You Need Is Kill. So they changed the movie to originally Live, Die, Repeat. But then people were like, how do you market a movie like that? So they went off of I don't know exactly where they got the term Edge of Tomorrow. Maybe they
me neither.
I think the spec script called it that as a subtitle, the spec script that was sold for the film. So they went with that title, Edge of Tomorrow, and then they kind of reworked it. It's now marketed on the sleeve of the Blu-ray and on digital devices, Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow. So a little confusing, but for our purpose, we're going to call it Edge of Tomorrow, and it stars Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt, and directed by Doug Liman, who directed, I believe, The Bourne Identity and Mr. and Miss Smith. And you know, this is one of those movies that when it came out, Tom Cruise was kind of over marketed, I might want to say, and people were a little tired of him. And they saw this and they thought, oh, it's another Tom Cruise sci-fi film. I think I'm going to pass it up. And
because he just came out with Oblivion the previous year.
Yeah, and he had just come out with Oblivion, and it was just kind of not good timing. But this movie did end up making a profit overseas and through video and stuff because it started finding a home, even though it didn't do well in its initial box office run. But don't let that stop you from watching if you've never seen this, because this is a really cool fucking movie. It's also cool to see Tom play a role where he's not completely sure of himself. He's not Ethan Hunt. He's not overly confident. He's not Jack Reacher. He's not Maverick. He's a guy who is a face for the military. He's a propaganda guy to keep people happy in this war against the mimics that have invaded our planet and are destroying it and destroying the human race. We're losing this fucking war hands down. And the reason why is because everywhere we go to fight the mimics, they seem to know we're there and they can't figure out why. So his job is to trump up propaganda, but he goes to this general who he answers to, and the general tells him, well, we need all soldiers we can for this mass invasion. You're done with your propaganda. You're going to war. And of course, he doesn't want to, but he has no choice. And when he does so, he dies after meeting a very tough and gruff Bill Paxton character and meeting some other soldiers. And then he wakes up. He kills an alpha. Yeah. He kills an alpha mimic, and he wakes up and he's back on the boat, starting his day over. And it turns out there's a super soldier out there played by Emily Blunt. What is her character's name? Rita. And and it turns out that he
runs into her at the battle.
He runs into Rita.
He runs into her at the
after
and so he keeps reliving.
He dies.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I watched it almost a week ago. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, and he's like, "Don't go there." He's like, and watch out for over there. And then he's like, "We need to move. This plane explodes." And he's like, "Don't ask me how I know." And then she's like, she stops, and he's like, "Come on, get out of there." She's like, find me when you wake up." And so he goes and finds her, and she's like, "Hey, I had the same thing happen with me, but I had a blood transfusion and I lost it. It's in your blood. You have to make sure you die. Don't get injured. So that tar or whatever from the alpha gets mixed in with his blood and allows him to reset the day, which is how the enemy is operating. They're able to reset and replay the day. And this is a sci-fi, like you said last week, it's a sci-fi Groundhog Day. And they basically try and replan their moves. And eventually they're trying to, and find their way to the nucleus, which controls all the, I forget what they're mimics, all the mimics. Yeah. I had to remember the name of the creature, angry ramen noodle things. Yeah. And, so there's, and man, they just repeat. And it's funny, just going through the different parts of the day. And him doing the whole David Carpenter stuff from the perspective of the person he's talking to. They're just like, whoa, how do you know this? Well, okay, I guess we'll listen to you. But yeah, and then he falls in love with Rita, and eventually they know they have to die, and then they find a way to make it to the nucleus with the help of Squad 7 or J Squad. And crazy ass squad. One guy fits in his suit bare ass. And then the one guy has claymores on himself, just strapped to him in case he gets hit by the enemy. So he can blow himself up. But yeah, at the end, it's like he kills the nucleus and he gets some of that, blood in him again, mixing with his own blood, and it resets 24 hours just like it was before. And he finds himself on the plane going to talk to the general, which is where he was at the beginning. But this is a movie where if you like Tom Cruise, this movie's for you. If you don't like Tom Cruise, this movie's for you because he, just gets killed all the time.
Or if you like great science fiction too.
Oh yeah, great science fiction. Bill Paxton is great in this movie. And he plays his character good. He plays the character like a sergeant from Kentucky would play. He's like, oh, you're American. He's like, you're from the USA. He goes, I'm from Kentucky. He's like, no, I'm from Kentucky, not the United States. And I'm like, that sounds like something a Kentucky person would say. And then just him doing that accent, it's funny. And then Emily Blunt, I guess, she's, great in this film. She's hot. She's doing the yoga. She's slicing up mimics with her big ass.
Which she really knew how to do, the yoga. That was actually she didn't need a stunt person. She needed a little help with the harness for a couple of long takes, but she knew how to do that. Yeah.
Badass. But yeah, you can tell this was an anime. I mean, they're fighting spaghetti monsters, flipping through manga, flipping through the air, giant Zanbato sword. It's I wish the action was maybe stylized a little bit different. But you know what? It's fine.
Well, Doug Liman's an old school director. He's from the old school of action, I think, and I think that's kind of why he's not quite new school stylized action. I understand that feeling though. At least the mech suits, Tom Cruise, when he got on board the film, he said, "Look, if we're going to do these mech suits, I want them to look real." He put I think $150,000 of his own money in to make sure a couple of suits were built.
Yeah,
so they looked real. And then they used CGI some. He wanted him and Emily's suits to look real for the close-up shots. So he actually built a couple of suits. And they used some of the sound effects from James Cameron's Aliens for the suits when they move and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the same sound effects that Ripley's suit was used, which I thought was cool. And the guns, too, were also alien sound effects. But Cruise, I love how Cruise, as a entertainer, is always willing to go that extra mile to do his own stunts, to make it look as real as possible. That he puts money in there and said, no, we're not using CGI suits. We have to sell us to the audience so they feel like you're in. And I think that's fucking cool. He does that. And, a lot of people from the outside looking in don't always know that about Cruise and how much work he does to make his film's highly entertaining for the audiences and what they bring to the table. And it shows in this one. And I think that makes the film extra cool to make it more realistic film. Now, there's some spotty CGI with the mimics and things like that. There's a lot of quick moving, dark shots. Like you said, they look like spaghetti noodles. I kind of wish we had a little more look and time of the mimics, but at the same time, I think it also kind of adds to the story to not get to know them because they're so fierce and so scary, the way they move and attack, that maybe you don't need to get to know them. But it works for what the movie is, and if the sequel gets made, which is currently in development, Cruise is hoping it's his next movie after Mission Impossible 8. Maybe we'll get to see more of the mimics and what they do next, even though they are defeated. Well, they're believed to be defeated at the end of this film, because at the end of this film, they do destroy the Omega, and they're able to believe they stop by destroying the Omega, because the Omega is basically the time controller for the mimics to keep repeating the day. So we're left with the end of the film, assuming that soldiers are marching across the world, killing the rest of the mimics. So in that sense, it's left open. You could see how, okay, we got the Omega, but what if that's not it? So I can see how they could write more story. I'm not familiar with how long the manga went. Maybe there's more story in the manga that was told.
If there was another book.
Yeah. And see how far it goes.
That biologist that is like the only person that can verify what Rita and forget his character's name. Is it like Frank?
Yeah.
Doug. Cage. Sorry, Cage
is Cruise's character.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a moment in the film where the biologist mentions that we don't know if there's another organism like this. And he alludes to the possibility that maybe this is the first of many. So, maybe that's the caveat that they use to, to launch the second film. Mm-hmm. And it's cool that this film has a happy ending.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that. It's also, even though Cage and Rita believe they have to sacrifice themselves at the end of the film to stop the Omega, we find out that when they stop the Omega, that they kind of get thrown back in time, is what I'm assuming, by at least a few hours or days. And yes, they woke up and they stopped the Omega, but they don't know each other. So Cage stops by and he sees Rita and he just smiles at her, alluding that there's more story to tell between them two as well. And and Cruise and Blunt are both on board for the sequel, so hopefully it gets made. I think it's a cool idea, because I think this movie, it's a really cool concept, a really cool film. I agree the action could be a little more stylized, but it still works for what we get. I mean, there's some great sequences in it, especially the scene at the end where they're flying on the water and all that. And he's fighting the mimics as they're attacking the ship. I mean, there's some really cool, some really fucking awesome tech. I like tech in films like, don't get me wrong, James Cameron's Avatar, his tech is fucking amazing. But I like tech in movies like this, that this movie takes place in 2018, I believe. So
2014. It's 10 years old.
20. Okay. No, when it took place, though, in the year in the movie, I think it was like 2018.
Oh, yeah. 2018.
And or 2020, something like that. So I like it when they use tech like the mech suits and this stuff that feels like it's not very far off, because we do know there are military installations that are working on mech suits for soldiers now. We know this is a real thing. And I like that kind of stuff. And I think that's why Edge of Tomorrow is really fucking cool, with that idea of the tech suits and things like that. And it makes it fun when it's a little more grounded in some realism with the science fiction, And obviously the mimics aren't real, but the rest of it, has some grounding in it. So it's pretty cool. I also, I like the fact that the film also doesn't, and a lot of Japanese productions are very good at this. They'll have political statements in the films, but they don't over politicalize them. And you know what I mean by that from watching anime. And I think Edge of Tomorrow does a great job at this. It's political because you have soldiers and you have people, but yet it's the whole world is working together to fight these things. I think that's cool. And you see that in a lot of Japanese productions of anime. They might take their small jabs at each other, like they've done in some Godzilla films and things like that. But for the most part, they don't make a big deal about it. It just exists. Where if this, and that's what I'm always afraid if we ever have an American production of Akira that they're going to over politicize it. It's like don't ruin what's already a good story.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get too touching of that, but you know what I mean by that. But this is just a cool film, and it's 10 years old now. It's hard to believe it's been out already 10 years. And we picked this movie because we do have to say on July 3rd, happy birthday, Tom Cruise.
Fuck
it was
yeah,
his birthday
dude.
this past
Happy
week.
Birthday, Cruise.
And last few years, we've done a birthday around a Cruise movie around his birthday, because it became kind of a running joke a while back where someone said, "What's y'all's deal with Tom Cruise?" We're like, "It's Tom fucking Cruise, man. What do you mean, what's our deal?" To me, he's it's been one of my favorite actors to watch in my history of watching movies. He's one of those guys like Harrison Ford. It's been there through my whole life, watching his films and watching him entertain me. And I can't wait for Memorial Day weekend next year. Mission Impossible 8's coming out. They announced that it would be out. There was a release day announcement this week too. Will Mission Impossible 8 be out Memorial Day weekend next year? I can't wait. After Dead Reckoning Part 1. This guy just makes good films. I mean, Top Gun Maverick's been one of the most highly pleasing films of the last few years that you walked out of the theater just going, wow, I was highly entertained. I'm so satisfied. And that's what Tom Cruise does. And if you're still on your high horse about him jumping on the seats at Oprah and doing things, and I know he's not always the best father. I'm aware of that, but I don't think he's a bad father. I think he just,
he's out there.
Isn't as good as he can. He's out there. But as far as an entertainer, he's one of our best. And I think sometimes people need to look past that and don't let it keep you from watching a great film, that he puts together.
It's like a Gary Busey, if he, could act good right now instead of just being a water, kind of like mouth breather now. But, Busey's like that. He's crazy, but he's
crazy.
Yeah. But it's
Cruise
Cruise
isn't crazy, but he does make weird popcorn eating videos. I love my popcorn. That was still, even I watched that one. I'm like, this is really weird, Cruise. What are you doing? That was a strange one.
I always see that clip of Busey. Why don't we talk about buttered sausage? What's it doing? Why is it doing here? Buttered sausage. And I'm like, what the hell?
Sure,
but yeah, to Tom Cruise's credit, I actually saw this clip of an interview that Glenn Powell was doing about Top Gun Maverick, and initially he had auditioned for the role of Rooster, and he didn't get it. He was pretty bummed. He gets a call from Tom Cruise, and Tom Cruise is like, "Hey, yeah, you didn't get the role, but we're working on something for you. It's a smaller role." And he's like, I have to ask, what's your goal? And he's like, well, I want to be you. I want to have, the great roles, the good roles. And he's like, well, here's my secret. I don't pick great roles. He's like, I pick great movies and I make the roles great. He's like, so no matter what movie I'm in, I make sure it's a good movie and I make sure that my role is great in that movie. And he's like, wow. He's like, okay. He's like, that makes sense. And Tom Cruise, it's like there hasn't really been a bad movie. There's definitely a movie, like I think maybe the worst one is that one Vanilla Sky. Vanilla Sky is probably his weakest movie, I'm guessing.
Cocktail's not very good.
Oh yeah, Cocktail. That's so 80s though.
Yeah. So, and the second Jack Reacher was kind of weak. The first one was okay, but the second one was like,
Yeah.
So, yeah. And he's got some. He did make Eyes Wide Shut, remember? Which is a weird movie.
So he just did that to prove that he wasn't gay.
Yeah, every actor.
He's like, look, I'm naked. I'm naked with Nicole Kidman.
But yeah, Cruise definitely, man. And he's also in Cruise, another thing is it's the opposite. We talked about Christian Bale going a tyrant on set last week. And I know Cruise has had a couple of times where he's gotten upset with people on set, but it's usually out of passion. He takes care of people on set. He will make sure the crew eats well. Like if he's been known if he sees the lead stars eating better food than the crew, he'll go buy food, make sure they get fed well. Cruise does things like that. He also helps you relax on set, where Emily Blunt was complaining about the weight of the mech suit. And he told her, quit being a pussy. And at first she looked at him like, what? And then he started laughing. And she realized he was just trying to loosen her up. And after that, she's like, okay. And she handled the suit. And he, so,
and she found out she was pregnant whenever they were going to do reshoots for this film.
Right towards the end. Yeah. The end of filming and reshoots. Yeah.
So they had to use a stunt double for the reshoots.
Yeah. So, but happy birthday, Tom Cruise. Fun talking 10th anniversary, Edge of Tomorrow, and keep entertaining us. So next week we will continue on with our blockbuster summer movies with a film that this might not jump out at you as a blockbuster when you heard about it, because maybe it was but this movie made actually a pretty decent amount of money worldwide, and that's because Scarlett Johansson at the time was a really big star coming off the Avenger films and stuff. And this was one of her first big solo outings as she starred in a sci-fi film directed by Luc Besson, who directed The Fifth Element and Leon the Professional. And this is another kind of cool sci-fi movie. I think the only thing that, if I remember correctly, it's been a bit since I watched this. If I remember, the ending of it kind of bothered me some. I'm gonna have to rewatch it this week and see how I feel about it watching it again. And but that is the film Lucy.
What happened? What did you do to my stomach? What's going on?
We've merely slipped a little package into your lower tummy.
And you're going to transport something very special to us.
English?
No.
You speak English?
Yes.
Take me to the hospital now.
Hospital.
Somebody put a bag of drugs inside me. I need you to take it out. It's leaking.
It is estimated most human beings only use 10% of their brain's capacity. Imagine if we could access 100%. Interesting things begin to happen. Yes?
Professor Norman, my name's Lucy. I just read all your research on the human brain. It's a little rudimentary, but you're on the right track.
Thank you.
I have access to 28% of my cerebral capacity. I can feel every living thing.
Since when did you start writing Chinese?
Since an hour ago.
What happens when she reaches 100%?
I have no idea.
All this knowledge, you can unlock secrets that go beyond our universe. I'm not even sure that mankind is ready for it.
It's like all things that make me human are fading away.
Also starring the great Morgan Freeman, and Scarlett Johansson stars as a woman who finds out that she has not touched the potential of her mind as she discovers she has powers beyond her belief. Basically, turns into reaches those depths of her mind, almost becomes a living computer to fight bad guys and kick some ass. And what better of a movie than Scarlett Johansson kicking a lot of ass in tight shirts? I mean, it's going to be a fun watch, and I'm sure there will be some jokes next week about things that she does. But this is a movie that, definitely kind of went under the radar for some people, kind of like Edge of Tomorrow, but ended up making its money, ended up being successful. So it definitely falls in the summer of blockbuster films. And we didn't want to leave the ladies out, So we had to get ScoJo in there.
There we go. It's ScoJo, baby.
So we'll be talking Lucy on next week's episode. And but until then, this is the Rebel Radio Podcast and our 10th anniversary show now playing, as we said, on the rebelradiopodcast.com. We really appreciate if you go and listen to that and give us that support. But until then, I do remember who I am next week or this week. This is Mark.
This has been Matt.
Remember, until next time, as always, just go there
Just
and
go
do it.
there and do it.